अब कैमरा बंद कर लूं?
Will I?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining in for the webinar today. As all of you are aware, Startup India has been conducting webinars for incubators on information about government schemes and support for incubators by the government. Continuing on this momentum, we have Dr. Ajai Garg here with us today from Minister of Electronics and Information Technology, and he would be talking about the schemes and benefits offered by the ministry for incubators and startups. Thank you, sir, for joining in today and sparing your valuable time.
Thank you, Atit. Thank you. It's a pleasure talking to you and the whole battery of incubators and startups through this very innovative digital platform. And I look forward to a very intriguing next half an hour, 45 minutes.
Thank you so
Right.
much. Sir, just to give a brief background of Dr. Ajay to everyone. Dr. Ajai Garg as a director at the ministry, heads the International Cooperation Division, which has a mandate for promoting international trade and cooperation, driving IT and ITS sector, apart from managing the responsibilities of e-commerce and innovation, along with IPR divisions and the MeitY website. The recently devised MeitY Startup, which is a collaborative platform for tech startup community, has been one of his significant achievements. Some of the other activities instituted by him include initiating theme-based incubation centers, center of excellence, and accelerator programs, which help onboard startups to work grounds up for transformation into worthy enterprises. He has also been an intricate part of other initiatives like the impact of Industry 4.0 on startups, and has also worked on the National Software Product Policy 2009. So this is an honor to have you with us here today. Uh, so going forward, I would like to introduce the format of this session for the benefit of our audience. We will be asking some questions to Dr. Garg, and he'll be addressing those. If the audience has any other questions apart from the topic that we will be discussing, you are free to drop in your questions in the chat box below, and we will be taking up with Dr. Garg. So starting off with it, we would like to know your thoughts on the incubation ecosystem in the country and some of the challenges that incubators are facing in the country today.
It's not only the challenges that the incubators or the startups are facing today. The whole world, I think, is going through a most challenging period, and no one might have faced a similar situation prior to this, uh, be it me or the youngest of the or the oldest of the population around the world. There has been the point today is that the startup ecosystem started with a journey that the Startup India program actually initiated, and we should actually congratulate DPIIT for bringing a focus around startups in this country. India being a center where talent is in plenty, started on a startup journey way back around 2006 7 as such. And in the initial years, we had a battery of young companies, mostly in the field of e-commerce, and we saw some successes in form of Flipkarts and Snapdeals and companies like that. Post 2013, when Industry 4.0 or the emerging tech started taking traction, some of the deep tech startups started emerging in India, and that was a journey which actually is a more tougher part of this. And one of the important ingredients, Ati, that I would like to again mention, that in our startup journey, our institutes of higher learning and research have played a pivotal role. Most of the initial incubators came from the institutes of higher learnings, uh, the TEP scheme of DST, and the Technology Incubation and Development of Entrepreneurs Scheme 1.0 that came way back in 2006, 7, 8 was the breeding ground for uh, academia started promoting startups, and we started. So right now the scenario is that India has got around 40,000 odd startups in this country, and uh, the success rate of the startups is what is a matter of concern, that but that we have, of the 40,000 odd startups, 34 only have graduated to the unicorn status. Yes, unicorn status is a difficult, but being a $1 million company is still a challenge in this country, and many of these startups do have come up with very innovative ideas. Scaling them up to the next level is still a challenge. Getting Indian rupee capital into the system still is a challenge which has to be addressed. Getting market access both in the government and in the private sector in India is a challenge, and many of the startups are actually finding better markets outside India rather than finding markets in India. And the last and the biggest challenge is cheap, low cost products competing that mostly come from a country into our east, competing with very deep tech, matured solutions that our startups are developing. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for that insightful answer. Um, sir, moving on, we would like to understand from you the exact mandate for MeitY Startup Hub that has been recently launched, and how is it beneficial for all the stakeholders of the startup ecosystem?
Look, the overarching mandate of supporting startups comes to the Startup India program. But understand, of the 40,000 startups, more than 27,000 startups are digital companies. And in fact, it can be more than that. Of those 28,000, half of them are deep tech companies. Digital companies and the deep tech companies have need a much deep rooted support and specialized support that is required, and need a much larger infrastructure and an ecosystem to actually prosper and come up to a maturity level. So what we thought, that let's complement the Startup India program, let's complement the efforts being put in by DPIIT, and whatever manner and whatever support mechanisms they have been, to actually give them a targeted, deep-rooted solution support, which, as an expert ministry, we have the mandate to do it. So what we created is few things. We created theme-based deep tech incubators around the country through a scheme called the Technology Incubation and Development of Entrepreneurs 2.0, in which we are supporting 51 incubators around the country uh, in institutes of higher learning and research. That is one. The second is that let's understand that we have been the champions to the services industry, or the IT services industry, and STPI, or the software technology parks, have been the main vehicle through which the services industry has been supported in this country. It- STPI has got more than 60 centers around the country with 50,000 5 lakh square feet of incubation space. They have mainly been in the realm of IT services. What we came up is two things. We came up with two set of policies called the National Policy on Electronics 2019 and the National Policy on Software Products, with the basic intent of taking India from services to products, deep tech digital products, and to actually have a greater say of digital technologies in the increasing the productivity of Indian other sectors of Indian economy, whether it's agriculture, e-commerce, road transport, or name any sector of economy. So what we did under the national policy on software products, we converted the software technology parks incubation space as centers for promoting software product ecosystem or software product based startup, and we came up with the next generation incubation scheme. We also came up with an array of policies that will promote these theme based software product incubators through challenge schemes. You must have heard of a recently launched video conferencing solution where we wanted an Indian alternate to the global challenge, global video conferencing platforms, and that is ongoing and has got a lot of traction. So we came up with the next generation skill for scaling the companies or the deep tech companies. What you require is, besides the SIDBI fund, you require a interface between an incubator and the venture fund. And we came up with the schemes of accelerators. We established three accelerators, one in Bangalore, Mumbai on fintech, and on a deep tech electronic manufacturing at the T Hub, Hyderabad. So uh, and we also created 30 center of excellences where deep tech and the traditional sector, whether it's an automobile sector and digital technologies, we have got a center of excellence in Pune. On a fintech sector, we have got it in Chennai. So we have got on medtech, we have in Lucknow. So we have established 30. Now to actually interconnect all this, we have created facilities around the country. We have to interconnect the deep tech world to use facilities around for all this, and then to interconnect our space with your space. So we created the MeitY Startup Hub, which becomes a single point platform to take the deep tech ecosystem to our targeted community. Right.
Thank you, sir, for that answer. I think a lot of entrepreneurs and incubators can have that information through your startup, and that's a lot of work that the department ministry is taking up. So, yeah, great to know the initiatives taken by the ministry on that. So, continuing on that, would like to specifically talk about some of the schemes available for incubators by MeitY, and if you can throw some light on those schemes in terms of the financial assistance that is provided, the eligibility criteria, the timelines for application, and all of that.
So let me talk about most of the schemes. Unfortunately, are now closed. So it is the incubators actually who are now in the process of supporting the startups through the various schemes that we have floated. So the TIDE scheme is basically a deep tech incubation support scheme where we have not what we have said is the incubator, which happens to be in the Institute of Higher Learning and Research, will provide the background infrastructure in terms of research and other testing facilities that is available in his institute. He will provide the mentor support that is required, and under this scheme, and we will provide a three-stage funding to the startup seed funding, which is idea stage, or then to a prototype stage, and then in an investment stage. And the total amount of funding that goes to a startup can be to a maximum of 51 lakh rupees per startup. This is one. We have established 51 incubators around the country under the scheme. The scheme was launched in September 2019, and the first batch of 41 incubators was supported in somewhere around in November, and the rest 10 were supported in March. So this is a three-tier structure again. Some of the incubators are very mature. Some of them are in the process of becoming big, and some of them have recently started journey. So what we thought is that we will create a connect program, cluster based connect program. So each region has a primary incubator, which we call as a group A incubator, which supports 9 to 10 group B and the group C incubators to actually mature them in their journey towards supporting startup. The scheme envisages to support more than 2,000 startups in the next 5 years. That is one. The next generation incubation scheme is in the tier 2, tier 3 cities of India through the Software Technology Park of India, where we have talked about providing a 40 lakh rupees seed fund for software product startup. The challenge or the chunauti is already there on the MeitY Startup Hub for the selection of the incubators, under which the difference between Tide and NGIS is that there the mentorship comes from the academia under Tide. In NGIS or the next generation, the mentorship comes from the industry, because STPI is a home ground for more than 2,500 large tech services industry. So they provide the mentorship there. We provide. In the center of excellences, the difference is that in the incubation schemes, we don't provide any background infrastructure support. In Center of Excellences, we create the complete infrastructure that is required for a theme-based incubator. So it might be automotive electronics, it might be a maker's village in Kochi, where we are promoting deep tech electronic manufacturing. So there we have created SMT lines. We are in the process of establishing an AMT line. We have provided them testing facilities. We have tied them with test beds, and we have tied them with large industries which actually act as mentors. So if it is Qualcomm, Intel's, or the Googles of the world, they also come on board in those centers. The center of excellences are mentored by an industry champion. Mr. Arun Jain from Intellect is our chief mentor at Chennai. Ganesh Natarajanji is the chief mentor at Automobile Pune, and Subroto Bagchi in ARVR. So these are the champions of the industry which are actually taking this forward, and we are bringing the traditional industry also on board in this. So like in automobile, we have the Telco, the Mahindras, the JDs, and um, uh, Vellore and other, all big large automobile industries also as part of that. They provide the problem sets, the startups solve them. Yes.
Um, so for the incubators present in the audience, we have like any specific scheme that is currently open, and where can they find more information on those?
Yes, we are in the process of coming up with a COVID innovation fund with a basic objective that lot of startups which have actually which had matured out pre-COVID now find them under a challenging situation where their solution might not be still relevant, or they need money for sustenance for next 6 months. So we are coming up with the COVID innovation fund very soon, and we will request all possible incubators to apply through the MeitY Startup Hub for availing that fund for their startups that will be available for them. We Right now we are also having a grand challenge scheme where we are asking incubators to run challenges on specific areas where we see large markets, whether it is work from home solutions, or in the edutech space, or in the agritech space, where they see a large market for Indian companies. So they can run challenges to actually support new product companies under that scheme.
Thank you,
So
sir. I think that would be really valuable for the entrepreneurs that have joined us today. It can be really insightful for them, and they can look forward for this scheme. Moving on to that, can you throw some light on any other specific support for startups that was given by MeitY, or any other specific scheme specially designed for startups? I know you talked about some of the schemes which are provided through your incubators.
So
So,
let me talk about two things. Let me talk about the national policy on software products, and let me talk about the national policy on electronics. Hmm? Under the national policy on startups, we have an array of strategies which actually will support the software product companies. And as you know, the product space is a new space. Most of the software product companies are still evolving startups. So, under the National Software Product Policy, we have a scheme for talent creation in the product space. We have a scheme where we are trying to evolve a software product development fund. We are trying to devise a scheme for giving preferential markets to Indian software products, and there is an array of schemes that are there under the national policy on software products. Under the national policy on electronics, what we changed from 2012 to now 2020 is that we look at India as a global hub for electronic manufacturing rather than actually taking care of the $400 billion electronic market that India has. So, under that, what we look at is the state of art in export oriented products, and we have come up with an electronic development fund, which is a fund of funds targeted to support electronic manufacturing based new age startups to come to manufacturing through this through that venture fund. We have also started theme based electronic manufacturing incubators, one at Kochi, which is a very popular makers village. The other is the entrepreneur park in one in Delhi South Campus, Delhi University, other in Bhubaneswar. We have a flexi electronic incubator at IIT Hyderabad. So these are some of the schemes that are there, which are other than what we been supporting under the innovation and incubation sphere. We have IoT Center of Excellences run by NASCOM, and we closely work with the 10,000 startup program of NASCOM also.
um, sir, for the incubators in the audience, I would also like to understand that is the ministry providing any or running any programs for incubator capacity development? Can you throw some light on that?
Incubator capacity development program. The Tide basically has got two charters. One is to support startups, and second is to increase the capacity of incubators. So I talked about a three-tier structure where the tier one supports the tier two and the tier three. That is basically to increase the capacity of the incubator. The MeitY Startup Hub is another vehicle in which the challenges faced by incubators are addressed through that platform, and we also very regularly run webinars and other programs through that platform. We had closely came out with a policy with a agreement with Innovate UK, where we were trying to take 15 incubator managers to UK for further maturity of these incubator managers, because they are the pivots for the startup programs. But unfortunately, because of the COVID, we were supposed to take them in January and February. We have not been able, and hope that once this COVID is over, we are able to take that program further. So we work with internet. I have experience and connect with the international community. So we work with other incubation programs of other countries also closely to increase capacity in India.
Great to know about that, sir. So we have a few questions from the audience. So one of the questions that we have received is, how do you see the future of IT sector in startups? Uh, which space in the sector should startups target?
Two questions, huh? The future of the IT sector and what is the future of the tech sector. uh, I have to be philosophic in this. What is there is that if we talk about a $5 trillion in digital economy, which would have happened by 2025 if the COVID would not have been there, I don't know, it might be delayed by a year or so, but it will happen. Right now, we of the 2.8 of the $3 trillion economy, the contribution of the IT sector is around 9 to 10%. But if once India reaches a $5 trillion economy, the contribution of the digital sector will be 20% of the total $5 trillion economy. That is a $1 trillion economy that India uh, will there will be a 1 trillion. Now, the point to be that the digital economy will grow from present around 350 billion or to 280 to 300 billion to $1 trillion in next 5 to 6 years. That's the journey. That is the CAGR of again around 14-15%. But the point to be noted is that what will be the contribution of the Indian companies in that $1 trillion economy? Or the majority will again come back from the Googles and the Microsofts? No, it will not happen so. Because of two reasons. One is our public digital platform method of low cost innovation based method of furthering digital economy. So the success of UPIs and the Aadhars have given us confidence that we will actually play the digital game differently from other countries. When digital starts interfering with other sectors of economy, we understand the problem sets better than the Silicon Valley. So we and our startups will be able to come up with better, more robust, low cost solutions as compared to Silicon Valley. So we have the right ingredients to have a major play in the future digital economy, and our startups will be playing the pivotal role in the future economy of this country. That's my personal view. I don't catch me for that if my startups prove me wrong.
Thank you for that perspective, sir. Uh, so, um, so moving on to the next question that we have received. In your experience, what mistakes do you think that incubators make, and what can be done better by incubators today in the country? What do you think?
One of the biggest mistakes is the incubators make is which I think some incubators make is over impose themselves on the startups. If we have faith that we have actually selected a right innovative set of ideas and a innovative set of minds to implement, so give them more autonomy, give them more freedom, and facilitate them in solving their challenges rather than telling them uh, the way or the path a particular startup or incubatee has to take. Because let's understand, a startup journey, every idea is a different idea. If there are 40,000 startups, there are 40,000 ideas, and every idea needs a different set of ingredients to be solved. So giving more autonomy to your startups can be more beneficial for promoting Indian innovation.
Uh, so, just building on the same answer, would like to ask you a specific question in this regard. What do you think should be the best practices that these incubators should adopt? These can be domestic or international, given your work with the international incubation ecosystem as well. What do you think can be the best practices that you can suggest?
They should be more networked. They should look at providing them better market access. They should be able to unite as a force to address their issues on the platform. The large industries have CIIs and the NASCOMs to support them. Startups do not have that type of a cloud to get there first. So it has to be the incubators that have to address their issues, where, whether in the system, whether it's with the government, center or state, whether it is with the large industries. Their role should be to protect them rather than to expose them or to over own them. And that is their role should be when with regard to solving the regulatory and other legal and compliance challenges that are required, and the incubators have to be well versed with all these aspects of the business. So they are not only mentors, they are facilitators.
I agree with you, sir, on that point. So, sir, talking about the current scenario, the COVID scenario, you talked about National Innovation, COVID Innovation Fund that MeitY is about to start off with. Uh, do you have, what are your thoughts on the problems that are currently faced by incubators in this scenario? And what do you think could be the way forward in terms of their changing policies after this COVID scenario?
Rather than the COVID has is a blessing in a disguise for the deep tech startups, because technology will replace human because of COVID, and that it would have replaced anyway through Industry 4.0. But if it would have taken 5 years to do previously pre-COVID, it will take 2 years. So the first biggest challenge is that if you are as a startup has thought about entering the market 2 years down the line, you have to shorten your journey and come to the market 1.5. The second is to cut on the cost. The next 6 months are going to be tough in terms of revenue flows. The next 6 months will be the tough on getting investments, and the next, so it will be tough on all that. So if you have uh, in that aspect, you have to actually cut down on your cost. If you have to work from home rather than hiring premises, do that. You have to cut down, have to have work on a minimal cost, but have faith that the market is there in waiting. Hmm? Market is there in waiting. You just have to overcome this next 6 months, and once that is over, it's a very bright future for deep tech startups.
Thank you, sir. Sure that would help a lot of incubators that have joined here. So last question, one of the participants have raised in this webinar is, how do you help with rapid prototyping that needs to be done at frequent intervals for electronics hardware startups? Like importing parts, manufacturing PCBs usually have a huge lead time.
Absolutely. We came up with a scheme where we are establishing in India right now for a rapid prototyping. We have got facilities at the Makers Village in Kochi. The T Works is coming at in Hyderabad. We have a facility on rapid prototyping in South Campus. We and there are others, there are around 20 to 25 SMT lines that are there in India. MeitY has come up with an ambitious scheme where in next 2 to 3 years, 1,000 SMT lines and 100 AMT lines are proposed to be established in a public-private partnership around the country through the incentive scheme under the National Policy on Electronics, that for rapid prototyping of this. The huge facility on medtech prototyping has come up at AMTZ Vishakhapatnam, and we are establishing one in Lucknow also. So we are well aware that that prototyping is a challenge. Manufacturing, electronic manufacturing startups need a much deeper support, and the EDF fund is always there to support them.
Thank you,
One
sir,
of
for
the
that.
other challenges is that how the component based resourcing uh, knowledge that a startup might require. We are trying to establish a sandbox on component procurement ecosystem under the MeitY Startup Hub, and I will actually request the incubators to provide us the database of such component repositories that are available around the country and around the world. And how do we avoid our Eastern friend in this component procurement? So I'll request our friends to actually provide us so that we come up with a very comprehensive sandbox for this.
Just one last question. What do you think is the future of electric vehicles and microgrids?
Electric vehicles and
Microgrids.
microgrids. Electric vehicles, it will happen in 2 years. It would have happened in 5 years, but it will now happen in 2 years. Oil has been the biggest challenge. Oil and the oil producing countries will be the most challenged in the present post pandemic situation. And oil will not find the same headway future. Few things that have happened well in the world is, one is battery manufacturing and storage. Some good work has happened around lithium ion batteries, which is a, I think, the heart of an electric vehicle. And second is an ecosystem which is distributed ecosystem rather than a concentrated monopolistic electric vehicle ecosystem which Tesla was trying to develop. And now that system is coming up, and the electric vehicle market will be one of the largest growing markets in the coming year. And understand that the electric vehicle market was distressed because of the fall in sales of vehicles drastically. But the pro COVID, because people might not be liking or like to travel on uh, public transports, so this sector will again pick up very fast.
Uh, Thank you, sir, for all of your inputs and giving your invaluable time and just sparing your time for the
And
incubators
it's
and the
always a pleasure,
ecosystem.
always a pleasure, Ati. If we are if we are found at fault, and my team or your team is found at fault where the Startup India or the Invest India is not partner, or MeitY Startup Hub is not partnering well and is not able to complement whatever you are doing, you can always come back to me, or any of the incubators can come back to us, and we should see that we together make it happen, whatever we talked about today. Thank you, Atik.
Thank you so much, sir, for that positive note. Just for the audience, if you have any further questions on today's webinar, please drop in your queries at sui.incubators@investindia.org. We would drop the email ID here in the chat box as well. Thank you again for joining us and attending this webinar. Thank you, sir, for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.